And we're recording. So welcome all. This is Design Review Call. I don't have a number for this one, but it's with the Damus team. I'm really excited about it. And that's it for me. Elsat was already ready to go, so please kick us off.
Let's go. Thank you, Christoph. Thank you and the rest of the Bitcoin design community crew for hosting us and giving us your time and attention. So we're a team of about maybe a dozen or so regular contributors on Damus. Rob and Sasha are the Damus designers. So they're going to be leading us today through the Damus design. I believe in the meeting materials, there is a Figma file. So if anyone wants to share notes asynchronously, feel free to post it in GitHub or reach us all on Nostr. So we have Rob and Sasha designers. I think Eric and Terry are here, a couple of the developers as well. So thank you again for everyone for joining, and I'll hand it over to Rob.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks everyone for attending this meeting. That I think is going to be really helpful for us as a Damus team, and hopefully for you as well as a Bitcoin design community. So you get a little bit more of the Damus application, how it's been designed, and until recently we have started implementing some of the design. So I think we are right on time if we want to apply changes or based on your suggestion. And I think we as designers with Sasha, we're open to receive feedback like in every aspect of the application. In regards of, let's say, styling, how we document our design system. We don't have a proper design system yet. I was exploring your file, the Bitcoin Wallet UI kit, and we have something different. But I just like Sasha started the design file, and then I joined and I started to, I don't know, just threw things into that big file, which is going to be our design system file. But it's not organized. I haven't had time to basically structure the design system, how it's going to be, and I'm missing a bunch of components, of course. But that's what I want to present, and feel free to just interrupt or raise your hand in case you want to add something or something like that. So, well, I'm going to share my screen in case you don't have access to the Figma file, so you are able to see it from here as well. So as you can see here, we have multiple pages here in the top left corner in the sidebar of the Figma interface. So we have well, I think this is one that I was creating for the Bitcoin Miami presentation. We have the small design system just for colors, and we have obviously a sandbox where we explore ideas, and as you can see, we have a bunch of explorations in here as well, or testing ideas, or something related to that. We have the page for our design system that is basically a separation between our components and our work in progress. So here is, for example, where we have defined all the colors or the color palette. Some of the form elements that we currently support, which is in this case buttons, and we are supporting different styles and sizes. It is not well documented, and maybe is not good for devs at the moment. But after this call, maybe we're planning to kind of rearrange everything and add some documentation to every single component, or maybe we could restructure every component based on your suggestion and feedback. We have some segmented controls. We have input fields. We have tabs. It's pretty straightforward. We have gradient colors defined to keep consistency. We have the note, which is not a this is just the component, and we have multiple types of notes. We have short notes. We have long form notes. We have images, polls, fundraiser, audio tracks, audio files, and we have multiple atoms for those components. So yeah, here is basically where I put everything related to Node. And also obviously we have headers, the post headers, the post and replies. We have headers also for messages, just titles, and profiles that is part of headers, and also the universe tab within the Nostr ecosystem, which is basically explore everything that is happening in Nostr, in the Nostr protocol. We have obviously nav bars and tab bars. We have these button sheet, sidebars. Like basically these are components that we currently use. And I just decided to throw everything in one single section and to have some sort of separation. But obviously this could change based on your suggestions. And we have also iOS native elements such as the keyboard, numeric keyboard, or alphanumeric switches and all these alerts and some other elements as well. So this is basically the design system tab. I know that it's not structured really well at the moment, but basically here in the work in progress is where we have everything else. As you can see here, we have some views that Sasha is currently working, and some of the work in progress for batches. And here I have decided to put the flows that I'm currently working on. Everything is pretty much in progress at the moment, because before this call, we haven't decided yet to go into this design direction. So pretty much everything is in progress. So we have splash screens. So my idea is to basically have this artboard representing the flow. And as you can see here, this is for the onboarding users, and everything in here is going to be regarding to onboarding a new user who is going to sign in or sign up. And yeah, we have everything connected in prototypes as well. So every flow is connected, and as you can see here in the sidebar on the right, we have different flows for feed, home, DMs, wallets, switch accounts, subnodes, and so on and so on and so on. So you could play different flows individually. And let's say, for example, I want to play the sign up. So it will open in a new Figma tab, and yeah, you can explore. You could just start like clicking through, and as you can see here in the left sidebar, you have the ability to switch flows in case you want. Yeah, as you can see here, we have this flow, which is going to be the onboarding users, and we have some of the screens for sign in and sign up. We have sign up specifically just to build the flow. Some of these screens are repeated. We have also the left navigation, how it's going to look when it's open, and obviously we are supporting dark and light modes. This is for home feed. We have dark and light, and I try to connect these screens and to make the flow, to make it like it's working on an application. We have the M's, and everything is pretty much separated like this. It's following this structure. Like for example, well, this is just a test. We'll just move it to the right. But you have the wallet. You have different states for every single step of the wallet to receive, send. And we have obviously the home of the wallet section. We have all the transactions, and in here we are in the home, we are exposing just the most recent ones. In this case, it's just 3, and you can swipe up to see this one, which is going to be the old transaction. If you want to change currency, you could do it as well, to receive sats, to enter custom amount, and this is basically if you have entered a custom amount. If you want to send subs, or if you want to enter manually Lightning address, success screens. If you want to connect the Nostr wallet connect or something like that, we have added this recently, so it's part of the wallet process. And yeah, it's pretty much it. I just have these artboards that are basically representing the flow that is going to be exposed to the right. And I think that's the proper way in my mind to read the file, and to basically explore every single flow and play the flow from the prototyping mode. And basically, if we have some missing connections, we could just add it later or something like that. But yeah, I could just go on and on and on, but it's basically the same thing. We have for the node, a new node flows as well. If you want to add images, if you want to add multiple images, if you are just pasting an invoice from an external wallet, you could also do it. If you want to create a poll, if you want to create a fundraise, you could do it from here as well. Subs targets, we are introducing subs targets as well. So we have all those flows as part of the new node flow. If you want to add multiple profiles, it's basically the same thing. Subs on the feed as well. It's basically that. If you want to go to the universe, it's basically switching tabs here on the button, and then you will be exposed to a bunch of hashtags that are trending now. You could just filter type of nodes as well, which is in this case is just nodes with images and video, and nodes with audio. So as you can see here, images are exposed, audio are exposed. Exploring new texts or finding new people is also possible from these designs. And of course, to discover more hashtags in case you want. Profile, pretty straightforward. Connecting NFC devices in case you want to connect. What else? Oh, this is like another profile screen, but in here is basically adding a media tab similar to Twitter, and basically being able to see a specific image, to send the image to someone. This is for hashtags, exploring different hashtags and follow different hashtags. As you can see here, you could follow this hashtag and unfollow as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. In regards to the Damus flows, we have a bunch of screens, and of course, we're missing a bunch of corner case scenarios, and we're missing a bunch of other screens that we want to implement. But I didn't want to touch whatever I had before cleaning up the file a little bit. I was just waiting for this meeting, and I was just excited to hear all your comments and feedback about all of this. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask, or you have suggestions, of course, feel free to do it.
That's super cool. That's an insane amount of work there. Could you maybe so you said there's a lot of stuff that is not the way you want it. I was wondering if you could share two things. One is, what do you want it to be like? Like, what's the end goal? And the other one is, how much of this is implemented right now? Do you have like a secret version of the app where this is completely done, or are these kind of the wild first ideas and they have to be vetted and organized? Where are things?
Well, first of all, I think Sasha, I don't know if Sasha is still in the call. Sasha, do you have something else to add? For example, Sasha is working on these other flows, but I'm not sure if she wants to present something in regard to these flows in the state that is currently at. And if you want to first answer Christoph's questions before jumping in.
Yeah, hello. Actually, these flows are finished, but they need to be reviewed. And as far as I know, not everything is implemented for now in development, but something has already started to be developed. And as for end goal, I think it's not any end goal for now, because it's a very big project. It's developing, some new ideas coming in. So we cannot see the finishing point for now. It will be just ongoing work for some time, as far as we can think of some new functionality.
I had a question for you guys. The footer navigation is the idea, because when I go into the wallet, in the design, sometimes it feels like a different app at the moment. Are we going to try and integrate them a bit so you can navigate from one to the other, or is like the top navigation or footer navigation or something like that is going to be common between the two?
Between the two designs, you mean designs made by Rob and by me?
Yeah, I think Rob, did you do the
They
wallet
are
thing?
similar for now. We use the same components.
How do you navigate from the wallet back to like the home feed, for example?
Yeah, like in order to do that, I have designed a wallet. Like in order to do that, we need to basically connect these screens to pretty much everything else. Like in this case, as you can see here, we have the home flow active, but it's just the home. And if you want to go to notifications or DMs, it's basically connecting a bunch of screens, but that's a enormous amount of work. And to be fair,
it's more because the bottom bits, the home messages, magnifying glass, they're not on every screen. I think that's what perhaps threw me. Some screens they're not on, are they?
Yeah. Like if we want to connect all the screens, it's basically, go one by one or create, like, for example, this is a component. But if we want to go to the main component, it's on another tab, and we could do it by just copying and paste. Well, create the connection and then copying and pasting. But yeah, I wanted to just give the opportunity to a bunch of users to just go to this flow and explore this flow separately. But if we want to go in that directions to connect every single screen in one single flow, that is going to be, it's huge.
I'm not sure that it's really needed, because in this case you might lose the way of the flow, the path of the flow, and maybe something will be lost on the way.
Yeah, I think it was like see where it says all transactions, that hasn't got the footer on that, but I don't remember it on the screen to the left of that. So maybe you've added that since I looked at it or something.
Yeah. Well, it's basically it's like dragging up and down to see. Well, this is connected because it's part of the wallet flow, but I don't think there's a need to I don't know, like from here go to the notifications or even to the
no, that's fine.
Yeah, you have a separate flow for notifications.
Yeah. I think it was just that I don't remember seeing the footer on that, literally that screen we're looking at there. Perhaps you added it since I looked at it or something. Looks good though.
So for Christoph, like responding to your questions, sorry, I will just respond to this question. What I think we're aiming that we need help with is basically, I've been like checking a bunch of design systems, and I know it's not something like this, but it's more something like this. And we are not supporting a bunch of components at the moment. Let's say we have buttons, we have all these form elements, but probably we'll need to create more. And I made a huge mistake from the very beginning, and I'm not sure if I'm on time to fix it, is that I didn't create any textiles. So as you can see here, anything is totally attached to a textile specifically. So I was checking, for example, the Bitcoin community, the wallet UI kit. And for example, you have the type in here. So I didn't create this one, and I didn't save it as you have it in here, because this project started as an exploration from Sasha and Ben, who is here, and I joined later. And we didn't know if this design was going to be implemented at some point. Until recently, Eric, who I think is in the call, and another teammate, is Joel, they have started working on this design, who is basically, I will show you real quick, which is basically, after you sign in, you could basically follow, you could discover people to follow. That is basically. So this thing is implemented already, and it has a PR for that. And Eric has been working on the new sign-in page, which is literally these 2 or 3 screens. So that's everything that is implemented from this design. So I think we are right on time. If we want to apply a couple of changes, we are right on time to do it. So yeah, I hope that's enough, Christoph.
How much effort is involved to making it into like that design system that we looked at, into something like that?
Well, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
So
Yeah.
I can speak to that. I spent a lot of time with UI kit, and I did notice I had a handful of comments here. So I think one thing with the design system, so with the UI kit, for example, it is intentionally meant to be somewhat neutral looking for other people to very easily understand, and within 15 minutes build their own applications. That is different than Damus, which is meant to be one specific thing, right? No one's meant to like turn the, I mean, they can, but it's not built for other people to build their own thing, right?
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you're shooting for kind of a real open source collaboration thing where maybe you and Sasha, you manage the main file, you want other people to be able to copy the file, make proposal, post them on GitHub, and then you feed it back in. Is that something you're shooting for?
We are aiming for for that. Basically, it's like basically it's like publishing this file that I didn't want to publish as it is right now, because it's a mess. But the idea is to publish this file to the community, and this is Nostr related, so everyone could come and say, "Oh, I will just check the Damus file, and I could start a new project from this one." So the desired outcome is going to be pretty much whatever you have here, the Bitcoin design system. Mm-hmm. So I as a developer or as a designer, I could just come and say, this is my file now, and I would just start making changes. I don't like this orange, I would like it purple or something like that, and that will be ready to go. So that's the desired outcome. To let other users come here and grab the file and say, I would like to start my Nostr project or my Nostr client from based on this Damus design system.
Okay, and one tip for because Ben had this question about time, try to use plugins as much as possible. That's something I learned from Chris Luters. He's a pro at that. There are some plugins that analyze all the text fields you have in your whole file, and it tries to match them, and it lists the ones. Like it tries to analyze all the styles, like all the font size 14 with 27 pixels leading or so, and it tells you all of them. It suggests like here, turn this into a style, and then it applies all of them. So the batch editing in Figma through plugins is really powerful, and that might save you a lot of time rather than manually going and selecting every single field. So I know Chris has a lot of, he also used some paid tools for it, for a token system. He does this all day long. He's a real pro. But these things can really save you a lot of time and automatically analyze your file and tell you when something's not right. And the other thing, be careful with your sandbox. I've tried that in some projects now. Let's say someone creates a new variation of the button because they're experimenting with buttons. Then you start working in another page and you're like, I'm just going to grab a button from the library, but you grabbed the wrong one. Then the other person deletes their button, and then you're sitting there and you have 5 different main components that are all called button, and you can never tell which one's which. So I would recommend putting Sandbox into some, I don't know, somewhere else. It just gets messy. Like maybe copy the file, mess with things there, and then port them back. Unless you have the enterprise features of Figma, then you might be okay, but it can get messy.
Yeah, I don't think we have that one. Yeah, we are planning to clean up this file as well, but because we didn't have the proper time to actually do it. But yeah, you're right. I think it could be confusing for a bunch of people saying, coming here and grabbing some things that are wrong, or from other files as well. So yeah, that's a cool suggestion.
Yeah, I spent hours that I actually wrote my own plugin that analyzes all component instances in the whole file and tells me which ones are actually from other files and other versions of files, and then allows me to clean that up quickly. It's a mess. Oh, you've requested enterprise. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just internal billing. Need to sort out because they invoice rather than pay monthly thing.
Yeah. For light and dark mode, you can use a plugin called Lights that is also super handy. Allows you to, with one click, switch between light and dark mode on the screen.
Oh, Lights. Yeah, I think I have explored that one, but I never tried before, and I didn't know if that was possible, like doing it in this huge file, which is pretty much like designed. But definitely, I will try it out to see how it goes.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I'm asking so many questions. Other people, what are your questions? Elle said you had raised your hand raised for 10 minutes. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks so much for the feedback so far and the questions, Christoph. Yeah, just one point of clarification. I don't know how familiar you guys all are with Nostr and Damus. If you haven't used it, definitely encourage you to use it. But the pace, even compared to startup pace, is incredibly fast. So if we assign, say, Roberto and Sasha, hey, we have these 2 cool new features, and we have to fix this flow. If we tell them that today, by next week, there's going to be 5 more requests. So even if Roberto and Sasha are keeping up with the request from last week, there's already so many new things to do, and that's just, I suppose, the nature of Nostr development. Just some context for this, plus just ask, hey Roberto, let's do a design review next week. It's we're moving in the right direction. So thanks to both Roberto and Sasha.
Yeah, I would also, in that context, I would also say try not to get your design system perfect or spend say, I'm going to spend a month on this design system. Just build it out as you go and just make it a little bit cleaner every time you touch it, but just a little bit. I know it can become some type of task of its own, but I don't know if that's helpful.
Just one side comment. I know Roberto and Christoph, you mentioned that potentially Damus design system can be used by other projects as open source. I think at least at the very least, LED and I and a couple other folks who are working on the development part of things, a Nostr dev kit, have mentioned the possibility for having a Nostr design kit. So maybe this Nostr design kit is a little bit abstracted from what the specific Damus style and components are, but that's maybe a bigger conversation in a different conversation. So just wanted to plug that in. A Nostr design kit could be an interesting project as well.
Oh, I have a question, Christoph, for your file, which is this one. So I could grab this file and basically apply some changes and basically PR this file, so you could merge it into the main file, or you're not providing that?
So I would love that, but that's only possible in the Figma Enterprise solution, which is like $2,000 per year or something, and I'm not willing to spend that. So right now, it's you basically have to copy the file, make a change. So the specific features are branching and merging. That's what it allows. But the other thing is, I don't think Figma does open collaboration. Even on Enterprise, you have to be part of a team. And no one can just come around and say, like on GitHub or so, if the two of us have GitHub accounts, I can make a suggestion to your project. I don't have to be part of your team or anything, right? So it's just not built for this type of open collaboration, which is a bit unfortunate.
Having said that, I think Christoph is always open to suggestions, right, Christoph?
Yes, please.
Yeah. And thank you, Rob, for all your work. I think it's I think I agree with Christoph that you shouldn't worry about having the perfect design system, and especially at the rate that Damus moves, I think you'll find that it'll be about innovating a lot, and I'm sure you're already seeing that now. The biggest change I'm noticing in the files you have created is the access to the wallet from the bottom versus the bottom nav bar. And from what I see and kind of what I like is maybe the possibility of sending sats to people directly from there. I imagine that you're going to be able to look through your followers and send them stuff maybe. which is interesting. And I wonder if the notifications for this apps will also switch to the wallet. I don't know. And another thing that you could have in there, because I noticed Eric has in the onboarding flow a setup of the wallet right away. Maybe that's a little bit too much for a beginner. But if they click on the wallet navigation icon, that could be a perfect place for them to onboard them. Another thing, and this is something that I wish you guys could add, the note button only appears in the home feed, and I wish it was on every single nav tab.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you want to send a note, create a note, and you have to go back several tabs to find where the button is.
Ben is going to be happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I often think the same thing. When I'm on someone's profile, I want to hit plus like you do on Twitter, and it sort of automatically starts tagging them in the post.
Yeah, so I would definitely add that to every single tab. It would make it easier.
Yeah, we've been exploring that for a long time, but we yeah, we're trying, but I think the desired outcome is to at some point move it to the tab bar, but we didn't have any look at the moment.
Okay, and that's something else that I was going to suggest to change. And I don't know, Christoph, if you've seen, it's just, I think from a user experience, you want this stuff close to your fingers. So you don't actually want something on the top because that's the hardest place to reach. So that's a very good place for the button. And it's the same thing with the, I don't know if you can navigate to the post, to the note, to the note screen. The post button is way at the top. And it makes it a little hard to, So the fact that it's way up there instead of down here makes it really hard, I think. Or it makes it a little hard.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. That's actually like moving it around. Well, I don't. What the heck? Sorry.
Isn't that intentional though? Because you don't want to accidentally post.
I don't know. I think you want to make it a little easier rather than harder.
Well, that's the other thing, that Nostr, you cannot delete something, so you have to make sure you post something.
Right, but how many times have you accidentally clicked a button of, I don't know, image upload or something? I don't think you.
Well, yeah, that's true for sure. We could explore this, because of course it's a lot easier to reach this point with your finger. I was just biased to have it at the top because that's the current location where we have it right now. But yeah, definitely we can explore adding the post button somewhere around here, or even here inside the post section.
Regarding the post, it says they're long post. Is that a long form note that has its own subject and image and markdown?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the idea is to basically let the users, if they want to, I don't know, like write blog posts or something like that, they could still do it, but they need to activate the long post action, because in the short note we are not supporting Markdown, and in the long post we will be supporting Markdown. And I know that we have to do something different than here, because for normies, I think we need to show them that they need to, well, they could select a line and make it bold or italic or line through or something like that, showing different styles. I know that probably we could do, like just showing that to the users could enhance the user experience a lot. But I just did this one just to, I don't know, like connect the two flows and say we could activate the long post from the short post, or the short note, something like that. But yeah, that's the intention, is to support Markdown and let the users basically write a long blog post or something like that in Nostr as well.
You know, Christoph, in Nostra, there's two different ways of posting, and one of them is kind of a blog-like that has the Markdown. Most clients don't have that implemented. You have to go to like a separate client to be able to see it. So Damus is trying to support that, and I think they're exploring how to do that.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually something I was wondering if. Nostr clients have a lot of freedom to format things and throw stuff into nodes and do whatever they want. Do you? So Damus is really focused on the short notes and sapping, maybe polls, a few things. How do you? Are you also looking into all of this other stuff? I saw something about badges. Are you planning to support files, or looking into merchant shops, or playing chess, or highlights, or all of these other things? And how do you? I know clients also post really broken data sometimes. Like, how do you? Do you just hide stuff that's not properly formatted, or how do you go about that?
Go ahead, Asad. I think you're the one to reply that one.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we struggle with this every single week. But I would say if you compare Damus maybe to the other big example on Android, which is Amethyst. The Amethyst lead dev Twitter, he's excellent, he's great. He rolls out 5 new features every single day. So the pace is probably the fastest. And this guy also, by the way, I think has a full-time job. I don't know if he's a CEO, but anyway, he's pretty involved in a startup, so he's very fast. Whereas in Damus, I think we try to at least get the sort of the core experience. I don't know if this is the right place to use the term user experience. I don't even know if I can define it. But say, for example, today, maybe we might have some issues with the navigation, for example. What Elodie was saying, some basic stuff like, is this the right place for the pause button? Should we have the compose button in more screens? And even more complex stuff like wallets and zaps. I think there's quite a bit more work to do before we even add polls. Christoph, you're right that we have polls. We have some definition. We have a user story. I think Roberto and Sasha, you guys already have a sort of a polls design as well. But we're not quite there yet, since we're not happy with how the current experience is. So I think that's where, at least that's one maybe difference between Damus and some other clients, is we'd like to get it right before we move on and add a new big feature. But at the same time, it is exciting, the things that maybe Elodie mentioned, where there's so much potential to do new things in apps that haven't been done before. That clearly gets everyone excited on the team. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one part of your question, whether we support certain stuff or don't support certain stuff. The way the client works essentially is you don't query for what you can't currently support. So long form content is done in kind 4. So currently we don't pull in kind 4 content essentially because it's going to be too long and it's going to not be formatted properly. So eventually, I do believe Will wants to support it eventually, maybe as a different tab. And we would pull in that kind 4 and hopefully format it properly. Obviously, it's optional. We don't ever have to support it, but that goes for any other Nostr kinds that we may or may not support in the future.
Thanks for that. Mo, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, nice to have you guys here. I'm just chiming in a bit late. I'm just trying to get my brain around everything before I speak. But also from the Bitcoin design community, thank you so much for sharing your work so openly with us. It's a massive amount of work that you guys have put in. So, as Christoph said, by all means, do not worry about that design system too much. Question from a bit of a user perspective as well is, I was wondering, I know it's still like really early stages, but I know a lot of open source projects struggle with this point. How's like user feedback coming in at the moment? Are they like sending you guys DMs, or is there like a Telegram group? Like, how's that happening at the moment?
Elsa, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, the funny part is most people are just tag Will, the creator, and the lead dev. Say, hey, Will, this is broken. Hey, Will, when can we have polls? So maybe one feature of Nostr is you can log in with someone else's public key, and you can see their tags. But that's also the beauty of it is that I think we have Sir Sleepy here, who's I think he's added a little bit to the design as well. But he's I would say one of the power Damus and Nostr users. So he gives us feedback regularly. We have maybe, I don't know, at least hundreds of different users who give us feedback. Maybe it's a small bug, maybe it's a what if, maybe it's this feature request. So sometimes they tag us, sometimes it's just a discussion out in the open. Some might even go into GitHub. But there's a couple of search engines out there. Well, it's not perfect, but one of them is called Nostr.band, like a music band. Another one is nos.today. So maybe weekly, maybe a couple of days per week, I might search for Damus on there and see what people are discussing. So usually it's like a bug report. Hey, this thing's not working. How do I do this? Sometimes there might be some idea, but constantly one of the, I think, again, benefits of Nostr is because you have this Nostr pace, which is even faster, I would say, than a startup pace. We do have an incredible amount of feedback, and we do have quite a things documented publicly in GitHub. There's quite a few issues, small improvements, big features. We also have a little Trello board internally where we also try to somehow prioritize the hundreds of things we could work on. So we have no lack of feedback. Let's put it that way. And then I would say Eric and Terry and Will and the rest of the devs also have a high bar of, hey guys, this sucks. Navigation sucks. This is not acceptable. We need to figure out how to fix it as well. So I think we have some internal quality bars that we want to pass as well.
It sounds like you have a really tight process, though. And
Yeah.
how old is this project, right? And how long have you actually had a team around this project?
Yeah, Roberto, when did you start, and Sasha?
Me and Sasha were looking at this in December, I think. And then Roberto came on board. And then Elsat, when did we start having our fortnightly meetings? Not that many weeks ago, really.
Yeah, it was after Nostrika, right?
Yeah.
As in December last year?
No. Well, yeah, technically last year, like 5 months ago.
5 months ago.
Yeah.
Wow, incredible.
But then we only started our team meetings, which are fortnightly, like a few months ago. Yeah, not long at all.
Yeah, so we might add another. We might make it a weekly meeting optional. Like, pretty much everyone has a full-time job, but there's so much to discuss because the pace is so fast. So we're still trying to figure out how do we have this meeting with the devs. It's very engineering heavy, but Roberto, Sasha, Ben, and I have discussed maybe we should have a design meeting as well. There might be a need, for example, for I don't know, some non-design, non-engineering meeting as well, whether it's business or product. But I think we're trying to do less process and do whatever it is we're doing right now.
Yeah, sounds great. That can make a lot of sense. I think there are also sometimes times where the designers have a lot to talk about and you're exploring and a discovery, and sometimes you're just you're more like tech support. You're just supporting implementation, but not coming up with anything new, and then you might not need all those meetings. I had another question, and then I just forgot about it. It might come back to me. I guess I was wondering how what's a good way for designers to listen in on that process and maybe to contribute?
Oh, you mean contributing to Damus more?
Yeah, to provide feedback as things are happening.
Oh, yeah, I would leave that to Roberto and Sasha. But in general, we do have a sort of a bi-weekly call. We'll make it weekly now, so you guys are more than welcome to join and listen into that. It might be a little too technical, but for example, yesterday Roberto, I think, had maybe 10 minutes to walk us through the onboarding flow, and that went really well. Roberto, Sasha, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I would like to highlight that sometimes Sasha and I, as Elsat, he's like just picking everything from the Nosteric system, saying like someone is reporting something, someone is requesting something, and some of them are really good ideas, and we may want to add it right away. So in case some of the developers wants to pick it up, um, but for example, for the onboarding, they were in Miami past week, and a bunch of users were complaining about the Damus onboarding thing was an issue, and we needed a bunch of X, Y, and Z. And yesterday in our dev call, I was able to kind of present this proposal for onboarding users, but I went ahead and I designed whatever I thought it was good. But yesterday, in the conversation, there were a bunch of ideas to move things around. I don't know, let's present this thing and then the other thing after the user is registered and in the application. So for me, it was pretty useful, and that's the workflow that we currently have right now. It's like basically we got assigned a task in Trello, and we go ahead and design it, but we don't really collaborate with other designers, and we don't really get feedback from other designers in order to, for example, say, oh, this is good or bad, or we shouldn't do this, or we should implement other things. It's like basically presenting to devs and other users that may be interested in this, and they could add feedback on something that is already designed, but not in the design phase. Yeah, go ahead. Oh.
Shall I? I was, you guys are so early stages, and you're already looking at user feedback. You already, it seems to me like, as Christoph said, there's a very fine-tuned process that's going on behind the scenes. One thing that I noticed, I think, with a lot of the open source projects is that as the project develops, there's user feedback coming in at you guys from so many different directions that it can almost become like a full-time job, just collecting all of that user feedback and then making a decision as a team, like what do we do with it. Just yesterday, I downloaded the Fedi app and I was just testing it out, and I thought there was a really nice. I've not really seen that in a lot of applications, is that having the inviting users to provide you with feedback really early on in the onboarding journey, and then streamlining where that feedback goes to, so it just goes to one place, so that you're not left with going and searching on GitHub and then you're going searching on the posts and stuff, which people will eventually do, but I like that little piece added in of kind of just inviting people to do that from the get-go, and then having one source so that you're not spending your time like looking at all of these different sources and trying to piece them together, because it's a lot of work doing that. I know it because I've done that for projects as well. So just, yeah, it was something I noticed yesterday in their onboarding flow, and I thought it was a nice touch.
We have about 8 minutes left in the hour. We can go over it, talk as long as you'd like to, but I wanted to ask, what is the most urgent or most important feedback for you? What's the best way that someone can help? Is it the structure of the design system? Is it feedback on specific flows? Is it about how to implement designs or the designer developer collaboration? What are some big needs for you right now?
For me, I will say that when Will and everyone else in the team wanted to expose this file to the community, I was a little bit scared because I didn't have anything like even like this organized in sections. I just had it in a bunch of components, and Sasha was adding a bunch of components, and we were allocating everything in there, and it was pretty messy. But just checking your file in here, I see that you have, for example, you have multiple pages for different flows, and you have pre-organized everything. You have added a little bit of documentation in every single screen, what it does, and all the stuff. Automatic cloud backup, multi-key wallet setup. So these are kind of flows that we treated in one single file. But here you have also the colors, icons, typography, form element. So it's basically one single file in case someone wants to just start from here. So I would like to ask if we should follow a similar structure. It's like basically adding all these elements in different pages to say, for example, here is our typography. Here are all of our icons in separate pages, and then having separate pages for different flows. Based on your experience, do you think that's best, or is something that you could do something differently based on the experience you have with this huge file as well?
Yeah, let's take one step back. So you and I and various designers are so comfortable in Figma, but to a whole bunch of people, it is an uncomfortable experience navigating these massive screens, or even realizing that there are different pages because people might come from Photoshop or other tools. So like I just put down a link for the Bitcoin Core app. And there's also bitcoinuikit.com. Those are two design documentation websites specifically for people before they go into this design system, where there's the design, not philosophy, but maybe principles are explained. You can see the type styles, you can see the icons. It's more text, more a classic website that people can see and just before they scroll around and look at titles and click into components, just so you can provide a framework and you can put in screenshots. And for some people will never go into Figma. They will just be on the website. And the bitcoinuikit.com also has a page called Screens, where you can see all the screens that are also in Figma, but they're on the website, so they can be deep linked to, and someone can share a link around without ever going into Figma. So I think also consider outside of Figma what you provide. This could be on the Damus, could be a README or something else like that. And then before people get into this. And the second part about breaking it down the way, and on bitcoinuikit.com on the landing page, you can see that. It talks essentially about 4 layers. One are the smallest elements, which are text styles, colors, icons. And then if someone wants to just take the UI kit and work with those, or just change those, they can just work on that layer. And all the other layers are like all the elements then, like buttons and input fields, they're put together based on these smaller elements. But by themselves, you don't really use them. It's like you use then those to build your actual screen or screen templates. And then you take those screen templates, and then you have user flows. So if someone takes the UI kit and they want to just build a new send flow, they can either start with the smallest pieces and build their own, just using those, or they can create the flow that's already provided and just make adjustments. So for me personally, it helped to think about it this way and also split up the pages that way. And then yeah, it just makes it a little bit easier. It allows for people who work with this design system to touch it kind of at different levels in this structure. Does that make any sense? I hope it does.
Yeah, it does.
I'm interested, how much effort is involved to get something like that, Christoph? Is it like a continuous thing that's never done, or
Yeah, it's a continuous thing that's never done, I would say. And just make it public when it's still uncomfortable for you. And just like in the Figma plugin documentation page, you can just say, this is a really crappy version, but it's going to get better. Just like Noster, just like Damus was, nothing's perfect. It's not going to find your relays. The screen will be blank sometimes, but it's there and it's going to improve rapidly.
Yeah, cool. That's great. I think, I was really impressed by the amount of work and the organizations you have in this file. And I was tempted to follow this file structure for the Damus and for the old Noster projects, which is going to be like duplicating this file. But I didn't want to touch it until this meeting. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think we need to move in that direction as well. So starting right from the button, like all these things, and then scale a little bit. And yeah, Sasha, do you have any other comments about that?
Yeah, I agree. We should take this structure into consideration and create something like this. Looks great.
And just want to, like, while you're in the Bitcoin component, scroll to the right a little bit. Something else about the hierarchy, like check out the address inputs you were just, or the recipient item, like some of those. So if you look at something like the recipient item on the right, that is actually just a wrapper component. Each of those variants simply includes another component called item. It's just, but it configures it with different content. And the reason, so you might have that for an input field or for a profile or so, where you have like a very neutral, very configurable profile component, but then you have another component on top of it that just fills it with different states, like empty states, error state, filled state. And here you have node ID, you have Lightning invoice, you have on-chain address. So Split also providing different content configuration as an extra layer of components is a really helpful thing. So let's say someone works on the profile or so, they don't have to go on Damus and I copy paste some text or copy paste an image. They can just say, well, right now I need a profile that has an error or a profile that's empty, and you just click through it and you have it. That also really simplifies someone to come in and just get an idea of all the different states and just quickly configure it to that specific scenario that they're working with.
One more question with regards to the file organization is, do you guys feel like you have some pretty clear like buckets that you could organize into the tabs, or do you feel like there's some bigger buckets and then there's some smaller ones that go underneath that?
Yes. As Christoph said before, for example, we have this node component, which is consuming a bunch of instances.
Yeah.
So this is an instance, and yeah, we have different type of things that we could follow that structure to have different like buttons, and we have segments and everything that is built up like to reach this point, which is going to be different type of nodes. Because yeah, here in the design, basically you could just change the node type, which is in this case, I just have dark mode for that one. But for example, log node, you could basically switch, similar to Christoph said for the item list item. So we are currently doing that at some point, but I think we need to do better.
And I think when you ask about buckets, Mo, I do think there are some. Like even if you think of zaps, there's different ways that you use them. So you can zap a profile, you can zap a node, you can have the one tab zap. So each of those things would be like smaller buckets within a big bucket.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also working with, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think we have a bunch of work to do with Sasha, because in the past we were just trying to catch up all the devs working. So we have a bunch of their devs working, and we have a bunch of things that are already built. Like for example, the WhatsApp thing. We didn't design anything specifically for that, and I need to at some point, or we need at some point, reach that one, which is allowing users to WhatsApp or zap a profile or zap a post. But I think we are a little bit behind in design perspective, and we are working tirelessly on designing new features and all supporting current features. So yeah.
But I mean, that at the pace that you're going, that seems natural. That you're just going to have to be back and forth a bunch of times and always test out the app properly and give feedback, and it'll that's just part of moving quickly. But I think it does probably help to split things down a bit. I know I know one thing that helps a lot is when, let's say, you finalized your visual styling, like you're not going to change colors, you're not going to change typefaces. That's set for, let's say, the next 6 months. And then it's all about implementing feature by feature versus continuously changing colors and spacing and all of that stuff around.
Yeah, that's true for sure. Yeah, I think we have that bucket already defined in terms of colors and even though we don't have any textiles created yet, but I'm definitely going to check that out, the plugin to match all the layers and try to enhance it and to make it quick. But I think we have what that bucket defined, at least.
Yeah, I'm going to share a link here. I'm not sure if this is the exact plugin, but it's either called text linter or design linter or style linter or so, that analyzes your file and looks for missing text styles and other things. So take a look at that one.
This is great. Yeah, thanks a lot for that.
What's
I will check it out.
the best practice as well, Christoph, with regards to naming conventions of colors and things like that? That's something we've discussed quite a bit, isn't it, Roberta and Sasha? Like, should it, like, for example, the background color, especially if you're using that lights plugin, should it be like Damus background or should it be Damus dark? Or and then in the code, see, in the code, I don't want to swap it when you change to light and dark, so it sort of makes sense that it should be some sort of naming convention, but difficult to know what the best way is.
Yeah, take a look at the color styles in the sidebar on the right. So what the lights plugin does, it so whatever you've selected, it goes through all the colors. It looks for color names that start with light slash. Then it tries to see if there's a color name with dark slash, but the same remaining part, and then it just switches those out. So it's a very simple mechanism that requires you to name your colors in a very specific way. So there has to be like a light folder and a dark folder, and in there you have to have colors with the exact same names, and it just kind of switches between the two of them. Very simple mechanism. For the Bitcoin Core app, the devs really wanted to have neutral colors 0 to 10 that start with 0 instead of 1. So in that case, it was a bit dev driven. They had some preferences. And another good system, and I think this is more of a development thing, maybe something from CSS that I do quite frequently, is where you say like you don't say like this icon is purple, but you say it's the highlight color. And then like, yeah, you have a purple and the highlight color is assigned the purple color in the light theme and maybe the light purple color in the dark theme, right? But so you work with an intermediate layer where both for text styles, sometimes it's also used like header or in HTML paragraph via tags, where you have the color definitions themselves, and then you have functional colors. And then you just say, this is header text 1, this is header text 3, and then it comes with, it's like those variables are assigned other variables. That's something to think about, but that's a good conversation to have with your development team on how it's set up in the code. And it's great if you can use the same, both for colors, text styles, and component names. It just makes it a little bit easier. Okay. But it just really depends on your tech setup and how your team likes to work.
Yeah. I think that answers that question. That's really good, because at the moment it's a bit sucky. In the code we don't have in SwiftUI like the light and the dark versions. We just have like Damus purple, but then in the code it detects if you're in light or dark mode and then sort of programmatically switches them out. But that makes your code a bit messy, because you should just be able to do that in your color definitions. Having a light and a dark mode version of like the highlight color, like you said.
Yeah, like a primary color, secondary color, accent color 1, error color, success color, that type of stuff. It's a bit more neutral.
Yeah, I have the color definitions like this from 0 to 950. We have different levels for neutrals, and we have levels for greens and the brand color, which is this one. And I'm not sure if that's enough, because as Ben is saying, like, for example, from some background color, something, we could use the same background color for, let's say, a text, either in dark or light mode. So I'm not sure if it's going to be confusing for the users or for the developers to use that naming convention, or we just highlight it as a different color category levels, let's say.
How did you come up with these numbers? Like
It's basically it's I was just trying to follow a bunch of suggested that a bunch of design systems do already. So it's like basically defining the different levels of one single colors, like taking the neutrals. You go from the absolute zero, which is white. I haven't updated these hex colors, but you go from the lighter one to the darker one that is going to use your application, and then finding the different levels that you're going to use in your application. But this, for example, this neutral 800 could be a background color in the dark mode, but could be also the headers text in light. So I don't know.
Go to the UI kit if you can, please, and to the colors page. So look at the neutrals distribution for the light and the dark theme. So something to consider is that our human eyes perceive color differently. Light colors on dark background, we perceive it differently. We have different sensitivity versus the other way around, dark colors on light background. So it's actually not a linear distribution that's simply reverted. You actually have to adjust so it looks the same, like you perceive the same type of contrast between colors. So it's simply inverting, like let's say you have a list of neutrals and just using it the other way around for the dark theme doesn't quite work. It will not feel the same to an observer. So you might need to, I don't know if 0 to 100 or so works. That's why I just went for neutral 1 to 8 and then background, foreground. And then if you compare those two distributions there, they're not the same. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, cool. I did check this color distribution before the meeting, and I was like, probably we should do something similar, but we didn't have, Sasha and I, we didn't have the opportunity like to explore these different color palettes before, but we are taking the redesign more seriously right now with the developers and also with William. So I think we could work on that matter from now. I think we could spare some time.
The good thing is if you and the development team are in agreement about, let's say you need 10 neutral colors and their names are X, Y, and Z, and the code is set up for it, then you can easily just tweak them later by just reassigning those variables, because you don't have like 100,000 hex values in the code. You just use variables everywhere. So I'm linking a website here, which is not the prettiest, but that is for testing, that uses a color contrast model that treats light and dark color differently than dark and light. And then it shows you the relative perceived contrast based on what colors you use. Maybe that's helpful. If you use contrast checkers, pretty much all the plugins that exist in Figma, they use an old model that is just not realistic. That's based on the WCAG, whatever, 2.1 or so. So, but this tool might be helpful to figure out, get a feel for the content, or just turning the light off and seeing how it works, how it looks.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, this site is great. I think we could use it, of course. Currently I'm using the I think it's called contrast. It's just called contrast. Check the contrast that is created by a designer, and I think works pretty well. I'm not using any like Figma plugin right now, like Spark or contrast checker, but I'm using that one, which is outside of
Yeah, that one uses like a 14-year-old standard that's pretty outdated by now. Because what that WCAG thing does, it does very simple math between the two colors, and but our human perception is just a little bit more complex. And when that standard was invented, we didn't have iPhones and high retina screens and devices that automatically detect the lightness level and adjust things accordingly and all of this stuff. So be a little bit careful, I would say, with these simple contrast checkers and those AA and AAA things. I would use them as maybe directional, but not final.
Cool. Yeah, that's a definitely cool suggestion.
Yes,
Yeah,
we've been going on for an hour 15. How are you doing? You want to keep chatting, or we could do a separate workshop, design system workshop, or I'm talking way too much. How's everyone doing in the call?
We
It's
like you
it's all
talking.
very useful. So
I noticed a question for you, Christoph, and the rest of the Bitcoin design community. I noticed that you guys have a few sort of collaboration channels where it seems like, I don't know if you guys have a weekly call or you're more involved in that. How exactly does that work? And is even Damus something that you guys are interested in, say, I don't know, contributing more regularly as opposed to just ad hoc?
So that's the collaborations are when the community is a really open place, right? If some people want to do a collaboration, is like there are community projects that are basically created by people in the community for the community. It's not very useful to maybe a lot of people elsewhere. But then you have these collaborations where for some period of time or so, there's an external project that wants, let's say, help with a brand or with the project design or design system, whatever, and they're interested in also having people from the community join. Then we just set up that channel. It requires a little bit of activity, just cross-posting, right? Setting up the calls, making people aware of the calls. So we can totally set that up if you think you would like to have regular input from the community. Then we can totally set up that channel. You just have to make sure you keep it alive a little bit, and share updates here and there. That's pretty much it.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I think that will be up to Roberto and Sasha. What I just wanted to ask to see if that's a possibility for our design team. Thank you.
Sasha, could you share your NPUB? I don't think I follow you.
Sorry, to share what?
Your number, like your NPUB.
Oh yeah, just a second. I'll find it and I will.
Thank you so much.
You don't have it memorized?
Right, that would be really easy to do.
Yeah, it is N473264. You got that?
are there any other things from an accessibility point of view? You mentioned about contrast colors and things like that. Is there anything that jumps out at you guys that we should be thinking about there? I noticed at the conference, a lot of people had, I don't know what it's called, but it sort of puts a box around anything that's clickable and a button, which I didn't realize was even a thing, but really messes with the design as well.
Yeah, that's I left. We had an accessibility day last week. I left a bunch of feedback there, which I think LSAT's already seen.
Yeah. Christoph added a great. Essentially, he looked at the main view. Like whenever you load, there's maybe what would you say, Christoph? 30 or so labels that are complete garbage right now. So it's a very low hanging fruit. I'm sure there's a lot more we can do in that regard. But it's something that one of you devs can do, maybe in an hour or something, Ben, if you want to work on that.
Also, I don't know, Rob, Sasha, Ben, Elsa. Do you have any specific thoughts on components that would be useful to you that could speed up your process?
Like reusable components?
Yes.
One thing, Elodie, we're talking about internally, and maybe this is like very peculiar and not everyone will want to do this, is right now, if you onboard someone, sure, they can click through everything in under 2 minutes and start. But if they're new to, say, Nostr, if they're new to Lightning, there's many new and novel concepts that they have to like get their head around. Like as a Bitcoiner, it took me years to figure out what Bitcoin and Lightning is. So imagine you have someone entirely new. So this is their first touch point with Lightning Network, Nostr Network. So the idea was, what if we had this component, which is you know how you can go on websites, if it's a company, you can click on the bottom right, there's a chat that opens. So as opposed to a chat, what if there was like maybe say Will's profile picture, you can click on it and maybe adjacent to it, it says, what is Lightning? What is a Lightning address? What is a Bitcoin wallet? So maybe this thing we can place throughout the app. Maybe there's some sort of onboarding wizard, but it's essentially a little tool where you can tap it. It looks somewhat interactive. It looks fun and open to where people can maybe in a 30-second video get an introduction to Lightning, key pairs, NPub, or whatever. So
yeah, we mentioned
I don't know.
videos, didn't we? It doesn't have to be a video, does it? Actually, thinking about it. Just needs to be a process that explains it.
Why I say video is I don't know if you guys saw this video that Will made with, I think, his wife and their neighbor, the electrician. There was like the Nip Zapper 5000. So it was a humorous video. It was more humorous than educational. But what if, in that same vein, we try to make maybe these otherwise seemingly scary concepts. So Nostr, Bitcoin, Lightning, wallets, all these things can scare someone new. And I see it all the time from new users. Hey, what was this new Nostr thing? I think it was about free speech, and people just talk about crypto here. So if we made it, maybe have this little component that allows us to make it more personable, say, hey, this is not some scary tech. These are just normal people. Everyone here is a normal person that happens to like these things, but let's make it less scary. So I don't know. That's one thing I was thinking about, and I think this concept maybe could be used by other projects, but we haven't really discussed it or validated it with anyone. I don't know, Roberto, Ben, I'm sure you guys have much better ideas than me on components that we could use.
I think that's a really good example because it's quite componentized, reusable in different areas of the app. But yeah, I was thinking originally it could be a video, but yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to be a video. It just could be a clear sort of pop-up sheet that explains it.
It's interesting. It's Pablo. What's his name? Pablo 7Z F7. He contacted me recently about building an onboarding kit. Very similar idea to have standardize how you allow people to enter this ecosystem or maybe a specific application. In a way that developers can very easily just plug that in. See, that seems like it's something that's in the air and will be in the air for a long time until Nostr is maybe more widely understood.
I think from my experience of Nostr so far, it's that it's a really fun community. And it's constantly innovating, constantly sending you feedback, you ask questions. I like your thoughts, Elsat, on having little like notes that pop up as you maybe go through certain steps in the app. So you're not overwhelmed right at the beginning on trying to set up a wallet and figure out what all the terms are. And I think there's also some room there to make it fun and to have each client kind of at their own personality in ways that it may not apply in other types of apps. But I think for Nostr, it's really good to make it human.
Don't you have badges? I think I saw badges in the design somewhere for doing certain things.
There are badges, but I don't think in Damus yet.
But somewhere in this design system, I thought I saw badges somewhere as awards or rewards for 100 posts or so. I mean, those could very easily come with.
Yeah, I've watched the video on how Lightning works, or you get a badge for that.
Exactly, you could get badges for education. That's a good idea, Kristen, too.
Sasha, was this your bit that you put together, the badges?
Yep,
We might have to call it something different because there's badges already out there, aren't there? Nostra badges.
Yeah, I think maybe Christoph was thinking that this is what the badges were like.
Yeah, these could be actual badges. Right. But I don't know. It's just an idea. But I think it's a very it's a very good topic, and it's multi-layered. There are, people never enter an application. They first have to they learn about it somewhere. They download it from an app store. Then they have the initial first use experience, and then there are some things that that are not essential for the first use. There's things that are important for a profile setup. Then there are things that maybe are only useful much later, based on whatever use case your application supports. So it's it's one of those complex topics, onboarding.
Actually, yeah, on that screen there, you could actually have like a little walkthrough of how do you get that badge as well. So, for example, like Lightning, something to do with Lightning. Okay, so how do I enable Lightning on my profile? Or like the relay runner, how do I run a relay? That kind of thing. That could be quite interesting.
I don't know how that works on the programming side. I know Will's spoken of giving badges to like the first users or something like that. So I don't know if it would be something that the application could pick up and send you like an educational tip when you reach like a different badge, or whether that would have to be something different like you're mentioning, Ben.
I think we could make it fairly flexible. Yeah. The world's our oyster.
It would be cool to receive sats if you completed education components, like 100 sats for reading what the key pair thing is. I don't know if that creates misincentives, but
as long as you're paying.
Carnage was mentioning something about having a faucet just for beginners, I think. I think it was Carnage. I don't know if anybody else read that.
Yeah, I think I saw that. And then somebody mentioned about how it would be good to have it community driven. So the community actually, like, I don't know how it would work in practice, but the community tip them for achieving something. So it doesn't come out of any particular fund as such, but the community stump up the sats.
You know how there's those bots that tip people on occasion? Maybe something like that could be set up for achieving something.
Mm-hmm. Yep, true.
How are we doing, everyone? We're nearing an hour and a half. Maybe time to wrap it up. And what do you want everyone to get away with? Leave some comments on Figma, or join the GitHub repo, or I guess what we're gonna say, Elsat, maybe you and I should chat about setting up this Discord channel, and then maybe that we could continue there.
Yeah, if that's okay by Roberto and Sasha. Roberto and Sasha, if you feel that helps you, I'm very happy to help with that.
Yeah, for me it's okay.
Is
Not Telegram?
Okay. Okay. I mean, I don't want to create something that's another burden for you, where you feel like you have to check or so, right? Don't create more work for you. If we can do it if you feel like it would be helpful for you, but we don't have to. Just
let us talk about it internally between ourselves, and we'll get back to you, Christoph. Thanks so much for the offer. But I think certainly you and I can maybe get together with cleaning up the notes, and we'll tell you guys if you want to continue giving us feedback, what's the best way to do it.
Okay, sounds great. Well then, thank you, everyone. That was a long conversation. I talked way too much, as usual. You have to tell me when I need to be quiet. But thank you all for joining, and thank you, team, for sharing all this stuff. It's pretty incredible. I mean, I use Damus, but I had no idea how big of an enterprise. It's the wrong word. We're in open source here. We're in Nostra land. How big of a, what's the right term here? Not machinery, movement. This thing is. There we go. That's better. So thank you for sharing, and thanks all for joining.
A lot of chaos.
Thanks a lot for a lot of chaos. It's good. thanks a lot for your time, and thanks a lot for all your feedback and all your suggestions. That's really helpful for the team and for Sasha and I as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really helpful.
Took lots of
Awesome.
notes.
Yeah.
Thanks all. I'm going to stop the recording.